is a brand new look, and I think a lot better look than how they looked previously, which is relying on those hard carries like we saw in the last series, like when we saw with Busy at Work, right? XPXG. They sort of relied heavily on a single player playing a ton of Phoenix and couldn't do that anymore and lost. So we'll see what happens in this series between Fire Strays and Dreamland. I think it's a lot more well-rounded on both sides.
Yeah, the double Mantis, what do you know? Just add to the number of Mantis bands. Might as well see it climb to the ceiling here. Again, I'm going to see the lock-in here shortly for Fire Strays and see what they're thinking. They want that Warlock. It's going to be likely a triple battle as we go to Hell's Heaven on Domination.
Yeah, our first Hell's Heaven in a bit. We've seen actually the full gambit of maps today, shit. We're getting lucky. You know, I think they're getting lucky too in terms of getting maybe the map they want in terms of the teams playing at the moment. We get Adam Warlock alongside the protections of these heroes, and then also we got Jeff and Ultron touch, so or removed out of the hero pool. We'll see if even more comes in that sort of strategist lineup shit, because you can see where they're sort of focusing on, at least strategist wise.
In the double Warlock lock-in, we are going to be talking a lot in this game, buddy. I have a strange feeling with those reses as we see Emma get removed again and locked in for the side of Dreamland, and that is a main staple there. Mace has been playing a ton of Emma and can definitely play that hero well, and we'll see what happens over here for the side of Fire Strays in their final ban and lock-in. Goodbye, to Star-Lord, which we've seen a ton of Star-Lord play in these triple comps. You're looking for a duelist that can ult incredibly well and deal area damage just to keep stacking those ults as fast as possible, and no one does that better than Star-Lord with that Blaster Barrage followed up by the Galactic Legend.
And I think it's important for these teams to sort of ban and protect into sort of advantages, right? That's why you saw the Emma ban into protect. That's why you see the Star-Lord ban into protect. So both teams trying to get at least their advantage, or at least what they assume is an advantage. And, you know, you would assume, okay, maybe like previous patches, okay, Torch, you know, it should be in there in the ban phase. But in this current patch, it's kind of hard actually to play around a solo duelist Torch if you're trying to play these triple strategist compositions. Same thing with the Adam Warlock, right? It's kind of easier to play around that Star-Lord who goes into Blaster Barrage, who can take advantage of that hard pocket a little bit more. Whereas I think the Torch is a little bit more bursty. The uptime's not as much maybe as the Star-Lord provides, but it's an interesting match because you're now forcing as well Star-Lord not to be played on another team, and same thing for Emma on both sides. So both teams maybe assuming they have their own advantage, and we'll have to find out which one is actually a larger advantage. Shib, is the Emma more important, or is the Star-Lord more important? We're going to find out in just a second.
Yeah, and that question can be different for different teams and different situations. It is so tricky, and that's why these banning, you know, we could go into depth as to how this banning phase, which I personally love, it does, you know, force that, you know, separate compositions and really showing strengths of different teams. It gets into the weeds in terms of who you can ban and hard target out. And, you know, if you have somebody you're struggling with, whether it's a duelist, vanguard, or strategist that you want to more, you know, focus your target banning on, there is just so much to the banning phase of this game. Again, I do not envy coaches. That would be impossible to be thinking about. It definitely takes a ton of time. So we start off here, potentially a portal kidnap here from Mace and Chuckles. Looks like that is the idea. Let's see if they can get it done. We have seen, the idea of a potential lockdown. I think it was the play there from Etsu to try to freeze the portal.
And they're trying to go through the other side quickly, maybe. I think the only other team that does these sort of like counter portal plays consistently, at least, I mean, we see a lot of it at the pro level, but the ones that do it the most is definitely like Dreamland, and then also Rad. Like these two, Mason, specifically Guru, love to do that sort of stuff and sort of bring that idea to their team. But now that point's getting unlocked, Shib, and nobody has the objective on side of Dreamland. So, they touched last second. Don't give up that point, but they're already in a bad position, and there it is. Fire Strays cap the point first.
Yeah, I mean, that's the tricky part about the portal kidnap, is it does put you in a very slow take here, especially if you try to commit it with that portal instead of turning it around and running it back to point. Choco's going to find Super Gomez early, though. Is going to put them back up. But again, it's all about point management, and can they bide time on this point for long enough to get a significant percentage, but a ton of damage out there from Stinkers, who is just a absolute fiend here on the Phoenix, and we do see the bond go out. That's going to buy them a bit of time, but not for long, as Z-Cube now goes down from Gibbery, who's keeping that momentum forward, and now the bond's out for the side of Dreamland, who are walking. There will be no ults back, and just like that, Dreamland take the point. 25% on fire is really not that much for the first hold.
And that is interesting that FYR actually commit the Loki instead of like Invisible Woman and the Luna, for example, right? So there are, sorry, with Invisible Woman on the side of with Etsu, right? So they assume they have enough damage, right? They're trying to just sort of live. I don't think in that case Super Gomez even expected that much damage to come through from Chuckles, but already the Star-Lord advantage wasn't really an advantage in this case because Mace isn't even playing that Enema Frost at the current moment because he's on Doctor Strange. So for FYR, this is a tough fight to begin with. Losing Super Gomez that early, so much damage from Chuckles.
Yeah, this double shield comp is a comp that Emma can definitely, bully very heavily. Stinker's going to find Xantho in the back line, and that is, again, an early start here for the side of Stinkers on Dreamland, who's just consistently getting those early picks, even through these ults. Super Gomez onto Valentina. The res goes out. Etsu is going to bring back the team. Super Gomez comes in heavy. Goodbye to Mace, and the res is up for Chime now, bringing back the entire team after a quadra here, and that's going to make it difficult to hold on as Dreamland is still counting up the ticker now on 60%, 25 here for FYR Strays. The Meteor Ram, does this one land after the combination? It does! Chuckles onto Etsu and Lying now, and that is again a huge combo as you use Phoenix to break all shields and get that free meatball to the dome of the front line. Well done again by Dreamland to hold on to this point, now at 75%.
And it's a tough fight to come back into for the side of FYR Strays. Etsu committing that res and then also, getting that soul bond onto everybody. Maybe a bit too early in that case, but regardless, or it was Chime on the other side too. I think that right now, FYR Strays in a tough fight, back and forth, right? You still get to have that combination like you mentioned with that Phoenix end song, and then also combining with Chuckles is huge. Setting up that Magneto player is already popping off. Here's an Agabog to open it up for Mace.
It was huge by Mace there. The follow-up is there. Bond comes out after the fact, I believe. The team trying to maintain position, but that's a two-piece now for Mace as Lion goes down as well as Etsu. Double strategist pick. So much value. Valentina now going to find British Tree. Z-Cube goes down to Gibbery. Mace on to Super Gomez. And Dreamland, after losing point initially, come back like absolutely insane beast, taking this home and getting the first map W.
Incredible work from them, and I think, it was just that combination of Stinkers with Chuckles who kind of ended it, right? And for FYR Strays, they're going to have to kind of go back to the drawing board, figure something out, because, that was a tough map to lose for sure. And it wasn't even necessarily that anybody necessarily was popping off except that Magneto. Like, look at the stats at the moment. Chuckles, 6 final hits, 7 final hits for Chuckles, 6 for Mace. Huge Vanguard play for them. FYR Strays side, bit of a tougher side indeed. Besides Super Gomez, really nobody doing anything, unfortunately, and Dreamland's pressure has been immense.
Mostly there.
Yeah, I mean, Super Gomez with 5 finals, you saw some big ults there, but unfortunately, it doesn't mean much when you have Chime resing the entire team back after the fact, coming right back to the point. So that is the downside here. When Warlock is on the field, it's almost like you want to commit everything as soon as the res comes through, as we might see another double portal play here. It's all about, can we see the shutdown? We've seen in the past, again, Gale with the freeze, trying to stop these portals from coming through. The idea was there on the last map, but it did not work out for either side. As we start once more, the double portal on point instantaneously. The team's not doing anything crazy with them, just going to use them to try to take this early. We will see Group now from the side of British Tree, ready with that Strangling Prison now. It's all about who falls first. Lion going to bring out the Faith. Out goes Stinkers and Valentina. The combination does not find anything yet.
Doesn't indeed, and that's kind of a big get too, right? Combining Chuckles and him was huge, but Mace! Oh my gosh, I have a again! Gets traded out, the res also here.
Yeah, the rest comes for Etsu though, and that's going to be a tough turnaround. But Chime going to do the thing right back as Mace is now back in the field. Mace doing a good job finding these eyes onto the back line, finding double picks and forcing out a res here from Adam. So that is not too much committed post or prior to the res. And now goes the return with the eye. Does that one find value? Up we go as Z-Cube takes out Chime. Chuckles tries to land the meteor, does not, but Z-Cube gets 2, make it 3 as Gibbery falls. Chime going to self-res back, but at that point is going to fall once more to Z-Cube. And now FYR Strays have the pressure on the point and will be getting it early.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say they lost the fight early when they didn't combine Chuckles and Stinkers' combination of ults, right, with the Ensong Inferno alongside Meteor M. Didn't use it that time, right? Stinkers doesn't find the eliminations early. Maybe he thought that they could find a KO, but regardless, Chuckles forced to kind of commit it late after an eye came out from Z-Cube, also after that Galactic Legend comes out from Super Gomez, and then just kind of yeets it out there, praying that Chime or Gibbery gets hit, and unfortunately, or sorry, Etsu or Xantho gets hit, which they don't. And now FYR Strays have point control, sitting in a good spot with that Strangling Prison against basically nothing on Dreamland's side.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea was to try to damage boost with Stinkers there and Gibbery, but I don't believe it worked out. It might have been the slow from the side of Xantho. They could not collide with each other just due to the nature of not being able to get there with the damage boost. So I think that's what happened. Is now we see the Strangling Prison towards the back line, immediately going to be matched by a Bond. Nobody falls just yet. British Tree does find a few in the Strangling, but it is not comboed. Stinkers up against Etsu, and we see that amazing Beyblade spin there with the melee cancel right down towards the back line. Does immediately get just absolutely destroyed in the sky unless it clipped at that edge there. Super Gomez going to start with a blaster barrage on the backside.
And starting out, keeping everybody alive, though, on the main tank, main Vanguard line is the strats of Fire Strays. And now Bagamoto on the high ground. Oh, no, just Gibbery. And he goes down. Rezzed immediately by Chime, though.
Yeah, and here goes the follow-up from Super Gomez. This is what we were talking about, but it is going to be eaten, and it does buy enough time. Z-Cube is going to be able to take out Mace. Mace gets res immediately. All those ults not able to get enough value to stop that res from coming through. A huge res again by Chime, but remember, Fire Strays 82% on. British Tree going to find Valentina. The res is ready for Etsu, though, on the side of Fire, so they can keep this pressure going forward. Excuse me, Dreamland does not have res. Z-Cube going to find Stinker. Super Gomez now onto Chime, and now it's looking like the polar opposite of the last map, as Fire Strays are playing lights out still with res advantage in this next fight. And can they get the portal through? I'm not sure. They cannot. Fire Strays making it a 1-1 map.
Yeah, lights out indeed. The pacing was insane. And yeah, I mean, once, for example, in the last fight, British Tree saw that Magneto used his shift, using that shield, right? can't eat the ultimate anymore, and they all get sucked up, right? In the previous fight, I believe Valentina did have a shield there to block British Tree's Strangling Prison, but that was only one fight. The next one, that British Tree has the same opportunity. He's able to connect that time flush, resulting in a win for Fire Strays. And unfortunately for Dreamland, I just feel like they need to combine these Phoenix ults alongside Chuckles if they were going to run that Magneto alongside that Phoenix, but they're giving up on it. It looks like now, trying to play that Wolverine on the best round for Wolverine with that lava pit to bring people into. We'll see if it can pan out against the Groot 2, where the Invisible Woman on the opposite side to peel. It's going to be up to Stinkers to kind of pop off and play well on that hero.
Compositional change here for Dreamland. We will see the change over to having a Phoenix and running a more traditional 2-2-2. And here comes that potential play from Super Gomez on the freeze as it goes through map. Does it land? We are not sure yet. Across the map we go. The portal does come through. The shield did block as they start once more. Both on the high side. Great positioning, but Z-Cube might have the jump up, and unfortunately not able to make it happen in time as Stinkers with the early off map there. It doesn't matter what kind of ult you have out. If you get thrown off the map, Super Gomez onto Mace now as the numbers are even, both losing a Vanguard. Who's going to come out on top? Ult advantage slightly in the side of Dreamland, but Super Gomez very close, and Xantho as well.
And coming invis boundary on both sides. Nobody wanted to give it the point just yet. So usually we're going to see, is this Stinker's ult going to be huge in the middle of the fight? Actually got pushed off the map, though, by Valentina. That's a huge push.
Valentina, a very, very strong invis, always has been. She is disgusting on invis as we pop a few ults now. Super Gomez going to pull those out, but Star-Lord, that's the goal. Get those ults quickly and force out whatever. Mace off map there. Valentina going to find Z-Cube with another push off map. Are you kidding me? Great positioning. Chime now going to find British Tree. Chime making the change over here to be on that Phoenix. Gibbery onto Super Gomez, lying off map just to reset with the team. And now Dreamland up with the point, almost at 20%. And holding.
I want to use our new replay viewer to see what happened to Mace there in the last fight. Pause coming out. He did go off the map, though. That's the interesting factoid. Regardless, the pause is obviously, for some reason, as we're on an online group stage, it matters every second, every minute that you are potentially down a man or whatever. That matters, Shib, and that's why we're going to get that pause coming through from, I believe, Dreamland. And now we're coming back into it, all tied up 1-1, Shib. This has been a close series so far. And it really feels like the difference makers have been these force physics and pushing people off the map, right? That's been the biggest sort of statement I think both teams have made.
Yeah, I think this is one of those maps that you can just get an insane amount of value out of things like Wolverine, out of things like Invis, even things like Angela, as we have seen from other teams, actually, even including Dreamland in the past. And these off-map locations where you really don't have to commit anything and can find so much success, not only in the neutral, but through alt plays while teams are stacking, is absolutely a huge value. So we saw a two-piece there from Valentina off-map, maybe even three towards the end. Sometimes these off-maps don't necessarily give credit to those who get the push, if they're able to deal damage to themselves properly off map, and which, you know, does negate ult advantage. It does negate some ult charge, but still you do have that pick, which puts your team in a good spot. So again, I think the comps are looking like very good here. Dreamland it's seemingly working a lot better with the 2-2-2. My curiosity is, will that work in the sustained as these ults start evening out?
Yeah, it is very curious, but we're entering back into it. You're right. Like, how is it going to work sustain-wise? And I guess the biggest thing is, yes, Stinker's finding these pulls off the map, the force physics that you mentioned. If they can keep hitting those, then that's their way forward. But that's going to be on Stinkers. And, you know, that's the crazy part about Wolverine is that it stuns you after you pull somebody. Here comes British Tree, pulled back into a Sonic Seduction, but he's met with a shield to keep him alive.
Mace with a pretty mean Psionic here, trying to throw the shield behind the strategist so they can't be healed up. A very smart play for those who are playing Emma. Use your shield as a means to cut LOS of healing. It's a very good way to play Emma. It is the way to play Emma. And then just keep being aggro there, obviously, with Diamond Form. And this is a mean last stand opportunity. Up it goes. It does not pan out too much, but Chime going to be able to find Etsu as Stinkers keeps the damage up. Is going to drop back, try to charge off those walls a little bit. 45 here on the claws, getting them revved up and ready for action, but still Fire Strays trying to get this point. 70% here for Dreamland, who are down Gibbery as Fire Strays are down Etsu.
And not running that triple definitely is a cost in their backline. Same thing with Chuckles. Aya Okamoto committed, but unfortunately he didn't have healing. And Super Gomez cleans it up. Everybody else gone, and huge job from Super Gomez to find that pick early on to Gibbery, right? So because we're not seeing these triple comps come out, Shib, I mean, yeah, like you said, how do they do in these sustained fights? You called it out earlier. It seems like Dreamland eventually collapsed, but they're 78% on the board, right? They only need to win one fight here to kind of come back into it. Also, they've been able to bully British Tree with Stinkers on Wolverine. But we'll see if they've learned. Fire Strays hiding with the string in prison. There it is.
Yeah, and we are going to wall off here. Going to be followed up at a great focus there to burn Phoenix out of the end song. We see the tackle there from Wolves. Stinkers goes down. British Tree with some great positioning here. Going to try to set back to the point, but remember, it's still only about 35 on here for Fire, who are going to try to keep this pressure on. Ult advantage still up here for Fire Strays, who do have those strategist backline ults ready for action. Again, we talked about the sustain in the long game, and that is what I'm talking about as we see two strat ults ready to counter. Super Gomez doing a great job finding picks here. Going to get another and build towards that ult. We see Etsu close to the res in case the team goes down. Chuckle's going to find British Tree, though, and that will keep them progressing forward on the side of Dreamland, who need to get at this point going. Is lying now. It's going to bring out the fate of both worlds. Valentina again onto Super Gomez with a push or pull. Finding a pick there. She is getting a ton of value with that cooldown.
This is sort of the yin and the yang of Super Gomez, right in the middle of a strat ult. Unfortunately goes down. Here comes a Meteor M, met by that Wolverine, who blocks it with his face, not even using a passive to save it and save his team. But they're still touching the point right now, Dreamland is. Or sorry, Fire Strays are trying to make sure they contain the point until just about now. But Super Gomez finds Chime and they're working themselves back into it, Chip.
Yeah, I mean, this is some great positioning plays here. Fire again, still holding his position. Out we go with Super Gomez, potentially forcing out anything that they have. Dreamland doesn't have much to answer, so are going to just give up that space, which is a good play. Now they have 5 ults for this next fight. This must go their way. If I'm on Team Dreamland, this is a must win, not only for the map, but just for the sake of being up an entire suite of ults. We're going to have British Tree ready here with the clobbering time and Etsu on the res. You got to make sure you maintain and don't overcommit, as that res will be very valuable. Chime going to find British Tree. Etsu going to res British Tree right back. Chime onto Xantho now, as you see Stinkers playing aggro, trying to make sure those reses don't get too much value, and just dancing around Lying, who's trying to make that pick happen, as Etsu brings back Z-Cube now. Spin to win out with the Blast of Barrage once more. Fire Strays at 99. Dreamland building towards 99. It is anyone's game, folks, but now 2 picks out for Dreamland, make it 3. This is looking in their favor again, as Dreamland find a 4th now. 3 left on the map for Fire. The portal comes in for British. Will it get there in time? It looks like it might. Mace gonna find Z-Cube. 99%. They do touch. The portal comes in. Mace gonna take that pick on Xantho. Now the team retakes with Lying's dance floor. Will that be enough to hold as it gets matched right back by Valentina?
And they did not get pulled off the map by the Wolverine right now. They're trying to cut in half to make sure nobody actually gets pulled off. Here comes that Meteor M to counter. Goes deep. No connection. Super Gomez goes down.
Wow, Sinkers is going to find Super Gomez out of the sky, likely from the trance there, which is a great play to find the Wolverine taking a Star-Lord out of the sky like that. Mace with the early pick. Super Gomez is down, going to be coming back with Fist to try to get there quickly, using those cooldowns to fly in. Mace going to keep the pressure on, heading towards the off-map, and a great push, which leads to Z-Cube now, going up with a Meteor M and throws it, unfortunately, right into his shield. Here we go with the end song, but that gets touched by the map coming up, and still Super Gomez comes in, though. Z-Cube on the to Mace. Is the retake going to happen now as Fire goes up in numbers? This is so back and forth. Etsu ready with a res on Fire. Stray Super Gomez is going to be running to the back line. Everyone's falling here. Will this be enough for the point, or will this portal come through from Mace? I'm not sure it can. And wow, what a win and retake by Fire Strays.
How did they do that, dude?
Oh my.
That was crazy. What a retake from Fire Strays to come back to the point, relying on a huge Ayabakamoto from Z-Cube, and then the follow-up was there. Portal was in the nick of time. Everything worked out perfectly for Fire Strays, and they win the first map in, I wouldn't say convincing fashion, but you know what, Chib? It was a banger first map.
Yeah, I mean, that was an absolute cinema match right there. That was so much fun to witness. Look at the stat lines. I mean, wildly similar. Obviously, you are going to see triple on the side of Fire Strays, so you will see a little bit different in the finals, but still, 13 finals there for Mace, the SVP. You see 10 from Chuckles, but you look over British Tree with a 6. A lot of setup ultimates there with Groot. That's what Groot can do. Z-Cube with 11, and Super Gomez doing what Super Gomez needs to do right now, and that is pop off with 14. Coming in with the Iron Fist and getting a 2-piece on the back line was wild to see.
I mean, he can do it, right? Because there's no triple strategist on the opposite side. There's no way they can out-heal that. And, that's the biggest thing I think players are learning as well, just throughout the history of this game, is you kind of have to play perfect against triple strategist, right? You have to really have the on-point shots. You have to have the correct combinations. There are so many things, right? Just trying to live on a strategist is much harder if you're not running triple, right? There are a lot of small changes that sort of impact the game in a big way when you're not playing these triple strategist, double duelist compositions, or even solo duelist in 2 Vanguards, right? It changes the dynamic of the game a ton. And like we saw in the last game, I mean, Fire Strays, if they let even a moment slide, you have situations like that happen. If Stinkers is not able to pull off the maps, if you're not winning these fights early, it can really screw you over, especially when the portals come through and you need to sustain long term.
Yeah, I think we need to shout out the fact that, folks, you need to have Strange in the belt. You need to be able to take Strange and make those portals happen, because as you see there, that looked like it was heading towards Dreamland. That portal came through and the whole team came back and took the W, committing some strong ultimates to turn it around. So Super Gomez, look at these stat lines here. 32 KOs, only fallen 7 times. He's going to have almost 30k damage in 14 finals. A lot of those driven from Star-Lord, but coming back with Fist to be there quick, and then just being a nuisance for the backline, it can get very difficult to get pushed with that block.
Yeah, Super Gomez impressed me for sure. I think that him on Star-Lord is always something that we can talk about, but I think also Z-Cube impressed me, man. I don't know about you, but he really did a lot. Like, I think that alongside Super Gomez creating space, finding eliminations, I mean, on the opposite side, Mace had 30k damage, right? On Emma, you just saw his uptime was crazy. He was always doing damage, but we'll have to find out how the rest of the series goes, because Fire Strays are up a map on Dreamland, potentially going to send them home after this short break unless a comeback happens.
Welcome back, everyone. GG's, my Iron Fist isn't healing. Instead, he's coming back with a vengeance onto the back line. Fire Strays takes map 1. What a battle. What'd you think, my man?
Yeah, an insane battle. I mean, my biggest takeaway to you, at least, was, yeah, and that's the strength of a triple strategist, right? But also, that was a close one. I mean, that was incredibly close. I don't think it really can't be overstated, right? I mean, they portal play, they come back with that dance floor, somehow find 2 eliminations, job done for Fire Strays, and go up a map on a team that we all expected to honestly make the top 4. So this would be crazy if Fire Strays get it done. Maybe that could be the first upset of the day if it happens.
I mean, we've had battles today. You and I, it's either we see sweeps or we see insane games. And I'll tell you what, that was a fun one to watch. But again, I mean, the competition is just so close. Gomez looked unbelievably strong right there, playing a mean Star-Lord and then showing up there in that moment. But the entire team there from Fire Strays looked wildly strong. Both maps had moments where I thought both teams were dominating. Obviously, Dreamland map 1 looked insanely dominant, and then Fire Strays on 2. It was just very much back and forth as we head in to game 2 here. What do you know? A double mantis.
Not a surprise for sure. I'm sure we'll see more focus towards strategists again. We see the Ultron Protect come through for Dreamland this time around. No Adam Warlock Protect on their side. Makes sense moving into Convergence as well. I think Ultron does a lot better on these map types. But yeah, it is fun as well that Super Gomez, by the way, Adam Warlock banned on the opposite side. Don't fully know they were going to play it when they have Ultron through, but it makes sense, I think, considering what happened in the previous map. Gonna get rid of a hero that definitely is a staple, but it makes sense for Super Gomez, by the way, Shib, who said, you know, in his previous interview, it's a good thing to have a change of scenery, right? Not being on Sentinels anymore. It obviously, you know, isn't the best to not play for a team like Sentinels, who has been such a storied franchise. But regardless, it's sometimes good for a player, just mental wise, to have a brand new reset and a chance to prove themselves on a new team like Super Gomez has with Fire Strays.
Absolutely. And again, I mean, we talk about this team being kind of, you know, they're essentially got patchwork, right? Like they had 3 team members removed and then 3 coming in, and clearly they're starting to lock in as a unit, because they definitely were making some very coordinated team plays there, similar to what we saw with Dreamland with some of those big alt combinations. But now we are heading into Hall of Dajali, and this is going to be the choice, folks, of Dreamland. Remember, they get to choose the map and mode once they've lost, so we'll see how they perform here. This is a map that at this point is a staple of stage 2, which I have almost no doubt will be shown, as teams really seem to like this map.
And for the last ban, we'll be curious to see what it is, because, well, yeah, I mean, you get the Star-Lord through earlier. I wonder if we could use that as a bait, right? They ban out Luna Snow. 4 strategist bans, Shib. Could be 8 total. Would this be the first time we've seen 8 total? I don't think it is, but it could be. This could be the very first time we see 8 strategist ban total for both sides. That'd be crazy.
There's potential. Yeah, I know. Actually, yeah, we're very close here. We're going to see the lock-in. I'm curious what that's going to be. Oh, yeah, okay. You got to try to save something here. And that's going to be likely for Valentina.
Yeah, I mean, we're already banning out all the off healers. So you ban out Torch. I was going to say, like, you could use these sort of, like, only strategist ban phases as a bit of a bait to allow other things through, like the Emma Frost. This time, Torch getting banned out on the opposite side, right? Because Invisible Woman's making it through. You know, on both sides, actually, it's very interesting that is kind of the case. But yeah, the Star-Lord with the Jeff has been a staple, right? Setting up the Star-Lord even more with those speed boosts from the bubbles and allowing him to pop off that with a full tank line too, Shib, which isn't touched anymore. So these are sort of those things that you trade off that we talked about earlier in interviews with pro players. You know, for everything you get, you give up something else. And in this case, you're giving up every strategist, but on the other side, they're still allowed to play Emma Frost alongside Magneto.
Yeah, and I think it's good to touch on what you had mentioned there when it comes to that speed boost from Jeff. That is another one of those things that at this level of play is really used to its max potential. The speed boost as a team to fully commit with more divey comps is one thing, but then also using it for simple things like Blaster Barrage on Star-Lord, enabling you to ensure you have maximum enemies under you while you are doing that spin and getting those ults as fast as possible. So again, a good call out there by you. It's just one of the many reasons Jeff is seeing a ton of play in pro play and is getting banned actually a lot more than you might think as we start up once more. This time, no penny cheese in the off angle behind spawn to try to get a pick.
Hey, it would have got Lying there, right? Because Lying was down on that point side, usually where people throw it. Could have got him. But Dreamland doing a comp we saw earlier, which is this sort of, well, it's interesting, Namor triple strategist comp, right? So they're relying heavily on this Namor damage. Makes sense on Holiday Jolly. I think we've seen this hero a lot. But with this Namor, can it do enough damage, right? Can Snickers pop off enough, have enough uptime to make it worth it to run him as the solo? And this time, Valentina actually finds the opening pick on a ZQ.
Yeah, I mean, again, we talk about how strong the hit scan is on Luna. She is a menace, and when you have Valentina on hit scan, definitely seems to be working out. And again, you kind of highlighted there that high angle, off angle there from Stinkers, followed up with the play from Gibbery, who's just going to play directly behind and just keep them healthy with that Ultron drone, just allowing them to do a ton of damage. Now, the whole team going to be dropping down here under bridge. If you are pressured, that is the place to go, as we see the portal come through on the defense from ZQ. Just trying to wall off some of that high side angle. Very smart portal play. That is your goal every time you come back with portal. Try to put it in a spot that's going to mess with the enemy team. Don't just use it to get back in touch. Try to get some more value out of it as the pressure comes in here. Stinker's going to be chasing Super Gomez forever and does find that pick, and that's going to be good there for the attack side of Dreamland, who are once again up numbers. But now we're going to start pressing the Q button as Valentina matches lying, and who gets the most value through, we'll find out shortly.
And we have the damage boost available. Here comes the whale. Damage boost gets one onto Etsu 2. So that's a very, very big pick as Z-Cube on the point isn't going to be able to portal back. Super Gomez also still walks back to the point.
Yeah, looking for E potential here. Is going to be able to find one, but immediately get matched and is dropped there. Chime going to find Z-Cube, and Chuckle's going to get that first pick. Mace now on British Tree, and Dreamland is now walking with almost 5 minutes on after point one. A very aggressive attack. We've been seeing a lot more of that over the last few days of Ignite, where teams are really figuring out how to make this attack fly on point one. There hasn't been a ton of long holds on point one.
Yeah, you're right. Have not been. Hulk going too far in that fight. Chuckle is going to go down to Super Gomez, who swaps over. And it makes sense. Super Gomez, I think, on Star-Lord first point, maybe overcommitted, right? Went too far. Probably didn't think too much of the potential ramifications of going as deep as he did. But then Gibbery with a huge dodge of that Jeff ult 2 in the Loki copy. Going over to the Winter Soldier now affords them a little bit more frontline damage, breaking those squids as well as dealing with the Loki.
And here we go again. Up we go with the Meteor M. Does this one find value? Valentina going to pick on British Tree again early on in those fights. It's another one of those early takedowns there from the strategist line. We are going to see out we go with Etsu with the Eternal Bond. Team is now going to be able to walk forward a bit. Out goes the whale. That one not able to find too much value. Does force out some cooldowns again. Is now Dreamland with Gibbery is going to be copying it right back and bringing the dance floor to them. It's gone now. Out goes the Psionic with a good count on it. It is good practice to try to understand timing of all the strategists ult, so you know when you can commit yours. Out goes the Rage of Ultron. They're putting some focus there onto the Hulk, who is going to have to drop back, and that is Chuckles now. As Gibbery gets a pick on to Super Gomez. Chuckles on a Lying and Stinkers on a Z-Cube. Dreamland is walking point two now.
Yeah, this Jeff comp really isn't working at the current moment. I mean, they're playing like a front-to-back style with the Bucky, but honestly, I think the comp sort of works even stronger with the Star-Lord instead, right? It's tough to see the Bucky out here just because, I mean, they're going to have to be playing front to back, right? Or they switch to 2-2-2, which they're doing now with Etsu going over to Phoenix, Santa going over to the Cloak and Dagger, which makes sense. If they wanted to play that Jeff, they would need to play that Star-Lord consistently. And now off of this, on a more traditional comp, again, Sneakers gets pulled in, though, nice grab, and slows him down.
And we go once more, folks. Ult advantage going to be up here for Fire Strays, who will have 3 in this fight, very close to Etsu 2 to make sure there is 4. Valentina going to be holding on. Sinker's Mace will be there to match in this fight as well. It's again and roughly even trade as Etsu should put the odds in their favor here with another ult, but out go a few. We see the whale. It's matched by the invisible boundary. Up we go the Meteor M. Does this one land? It does not. Again, coming with Super Gomez with the Kraken Impact that gets a reset off Clone, and the Meteor M this time going to be blocked by shields. Good patience there by Chuckles to make sure that cooldown is ready. Looking for Clones to reset. Back. Is not able to find some. Instead, going to use it as a defensive strategy to head backwards. Going to try to focus this, and they do. As Chime takes out the Ensong Inferno in this guy, and not a lot of value with any of those ults, as everybody is just on a counter fest here, forcing Dreamland to retake together and wait up for Mace.
Yeah, still a good fight there for Fire, right? I mean, so many abilities, cooldowns, ultimates used to sort of peel off, you know, both Super Gomez's ult and also British Trees. And then eventually the Ultron's Rage from Chime just kind of run away, right? No ults again. Stinkers needs to hit a whale here. I think that's the biggest thing, right? He's kind of been chucking them out there. Trying to go for the combo with the Meteor M was a little bit too early. Also, Meteor M was a little bit too late. Copy comes out from Gibbery, affording them some space to walk up before they pop it, though. But Fire trades on their side. Let's see how they react. Do they just kite it, or do they go for maybe a Sonic Seduction? Nice pull from Super Gomez, but it's going to be healed up.
Yeah, that pull cooldown is a living nightmare as a Vanguard, as we see there. The early pull, Chuckles goes down. Great tackle here by by Z-Cube, finds Stinkers, and keeping that pressure on forward. Now Fire Strays trying to retake. Numbers are evened out as Chuckles and Stinkers are down, but the spawn is heavily in the favor here of Fire Strays, as Etsu should be here closely, and Super Gomez and Etsu both right next to ultimates to be able to retake this point and own the space, and they do, as Dreamland now has to drop backwards. So good retake and hold there by Fire Strays, who were down early in numbers.
Z-Cube has really impressed me throughout this series. I think he's been leveling up for sure. But Invisible Boundary match for the Ultron's Rage on the backside, pulled in, forcing out now that Fate of the Worlds from that Luna Snow on the point.
And here we go with the Kraken Impact, using that as a way to iframe some of this stun here with the Sonic Seduction. He's going to drop back behind point to make sure that doesn't happen, but we do use a fair amount of cooldowns, as Etsu is just going to burn some of those clones and crystals, getting a ton of value in terms of equipment, but not a lot in terms of picks. Now Etsu on the off-angle hook from the side of Chuckles, just trying to take that space and own it as everybody's dropping back together. Gibbery going to take out British Tree, though, and again, this side of Dreamland up a number, but will Fire Strays be able to bounce back? Super Gomez goes down to Gibbery on the Loki again. Chime now on the Etsu, Chuckles on a Z-Cube, and they are keeping this moving forward. Dreamland is likely going to get it, and they do with a full three-piece sweep here on their attack.
Impressive stuff out of Dreamland. I mean, the pressure they put on with the solo duelist, the Namor comp, I think Chime specifically is a huge catalyst to that. I mean, he's really limit testing the Ultron right now, it feels like, Shib. Like, he's taking some really aggressive off angles. That protection has been panning out to a huge degree. Same thing with the Luna Snow. And then Chuckles, like, he just dives in there, uses Pop Soul, forces every single cooldown, Diamond Form, Bubbles, stuns out of the other team, and then Stinkers peels off whoever's diving, and they just win, right? I mean, you saw consistent dives coming through onto the back line from, I believe it was British Tree in this case, but it's just never working out, right? The whole kind of creates that space, soaks up that damage a little bit better, and especially against these triple strategist compositions, and gets the job done. I mean, you can see Chuckles, most final hits as a Hulk is crazy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, look at the finals on the side of Fire. It just shows you how well the retake plan was from Dreamland. If ever they had someone fall, as a team, they were consistently able to escape and not stagger, and that is very important here on attack, and they did push through with some time on. So again, Dreamland looking really good now, going to be able to be on defense on the high side in a similar position that they attacked from prior.
And you know, just to kind of, I mean, not to over talk about some players and talk, you know, hype them up too much, but Chime really was involved in like every single fight. Like, I don't think there was a single fight he wasn't involved in, going 18-0, also creating space on his own. I mean, this guy has really impressed me, like, throughout his entire career, but especially him and Stinkers have done a good job, I think, putting themselves back on the map, and, you know, throughout their tryouts, throughout going, you know, through the ringer of Tier 2. Really impressive stuff out of them to consistently play this well and also get better every week.
Yeah, just a tag team with that. I mean, Chime also a leader of comms, according to what Mace is saying. Stinker's going to find that pick early here on Super Gomez, and that is going to put them up, at least so far early on. There will be no early res here, as we do see that was the Rocket now switch here from Super Gomez on attack, and they're just owning this space on the high side. These portal plays bringing us back a little bit to Season 1. These strange plays still getting value, might as well, as it's a 3-minute cooldown. You still can get that portal towards the end of the play if you need to panic portal. So owning the space, but Dreamland doing a good job again of dropping back as a unit. Good exile again by Chuckles, and just making sure they can retake and prep for the next fight, and just bide as much time as possible. You don't need to start these fights. Let them come to you as long as you have position on point.
The tough part for Fire is they're going to be lacking a ton of damage, right? At least on the opposite side, there's a Luna Snow and that Ultron. You're not afforded that same opportunity, right? You're relying heavily on Etsu, heavily on Z-Cube, and you get that res advantage at least, right? But at the moment, Whale comes in. Now everybody slams. Xantho goes down.
Yeah, Stinker's going to find Xantho, but Etsu finds Stinkers. The res comes back onto Xantho, so the numbers again back on Fire Strays, who should be up. Chime trying to find an off angle here for Ultron's Rage. Not going to be able to do too much with it there, but the space has been taken by Fire, as Dreamland is heavily off point now. Going to have to drop back in as a unit as soon as a portal comes through here from Stinkers, which will happen shortly, and they're going to instead commit a strategist line and commit together. Out goes the eye. Great frame there with the block from Namor. So well done again. Keep the pressure on a Chime, who is going to fall here from Etsu. Squids are out on the high side. A ton of damage out, making sure Chuckles goes back to form and is already about half HP, back on point. But great hold here by Dreamland.
Yeah, at the moment, this is what we're talking about. They're going to be kind of lacking in this neutral a little bit, right? Valentina with the copy, or sorry, with the Luna Snow, just able to kind of put so much pressure on these Vanguards as well as heal the team. And right now, I mean, you're relying, like, it's still on Etsu. British Tree, though. Nice pick on Valentina walking towards him. And then Mace doesn't have healing on this inside angle. And right now, I mean, they're trading it back and forth, but this res advantage again. Super Gomez finds another res on Etsu with this beacon because they can't find it because they're playing so front-to-back style. Dreamland is.
I mean, Chuckles' bubbles there in terms of timing on Amaze was wild. Really well played. Just right when that E was being committed by Strange. Just great understanding. You know, without any strategist having a good LOS there on those Vanguards. Not much you can do, but they held on for a while. We see a very different time spread here. Point one is going to be taken relatively early, but not as early as Dreamland on the attack, as we have 3 minutes and 30 here for Fire Strays. Dreamland is going to be able to reset. Ult advantage heavily up for Fire, though, who built a ton of time to build those ults and not have to commit a lot, while they were forced staggering on the point to buy time for point one. So again, it kind of all worked out in Fire Stray's favor here, but there will be a few ults ready to commit as Mace and Chime are both going to be pressing the Q button here on defense. Chuckle's going to get that pick onto Etsu again, doing a good job here on that Hulk, showcasing Hulk strength for maybe get slept on a bit in the Americas region.
Oh. Wait, did that even... It did go off, but, you know, big stun regardless to slow down that push. That's one ult removed. And unfortunately, you know, Super Gomez's BRB was not up off cooldown. Here comes a whale, met by a shield, and also everybody else kind of falling back for it. This is an absolute slugfest ship. I mean, we have triple strategists and Namor for both teams. And, you know, neither side really have a ton of lethality outside of that and maybe their Vanguard play.
Yeah, I mean, you highlighted well before in our previous matchup that this is a good Namor map simply due to the fact that it's very lane focused and you can put Squids on the high angle, and there really isn't a lot of escape from the whale just due to the nature of it being about the whale size width of this lane. So again, it is very threatening, and you'll see now Z-Cube going to be on that hook. There's just a ton of pressure on the back line, and when you have Namor Squids being uncontested because your back line is forced to look backwards and your duelists are forced to turn backwards, a ton of damage goes out, and point two is taken early on. And at this point, almost 4 minutes available for them to try to tie this up. 2 minutes if they want to even the spread in OT.
Yeah, and they copied there to do it, to try to touch, and they're committing another ult from Valentina. I mean, Gibbery committing the copy was rough, and also getting pushed off, booped away from the Hulk, and basically everybody else was huge. But right now, I mean, I kind of love this Rocket Raccoon wrinkle as they get another fight win because, I mean, realistically, Ship, they're going to now, the reason they switched Chime over to Star-Lord is because they at least need to, like, push past these main points, right? You have to take advantage and look for that BRB because, you know, we've seen how strong Adam Warlock Resurrect is with even finding one person back in the fight. So once you have Rocket Raccoon and not dive characters or not playing against dive characters you have to worry about, you have a free BRB to bring somebody back into the fight at all times. This is something that I've wanted out of pro teams for a while.
And we'll start up again. Fight's getting ever more crucial. About a minute for them to try to tie the spread. British Tree ready with all. We see Z-Cube committing. Xantho as well. Etsu and British Tree ready for Fire Strays. Chuckles and Mace on the side of Dreamland now committing Qs. But we see a pick there as Valentina goes down. So Fire Strays with another early pick. Etsu going to find Chuckles. And again on a Gibbery. And at this point, everyone is falling on the side of Dreamland. Chime goes down. Etsu with like a 4-piece there. Might as well keep it walking wide, don't you? But Mace is going to be able to take out Z-Cube. Can they retouch here? No strategist all available. And we'll see some Qs popped. And this time, the Sia out for Super Gomez. They're still moving with 2 minutes on. Can they beat the time? Out we go with everyone pressing Q. Chime in the sky with the Galactic Legend Valentina. Gonna bring out the invisible boundary. Can this be enough as Stinkers takes out Xantho? Now the momentum shifting back as Chime drops. Yep, lying. Super Gomez gonna rest Xantho, but Stinkers, Chime, and Gibbery gonna clean up the rest. And Dreamland do retake. Committing a ton, but still holding on to Gibbery's ult here.
He's trying to back cap too because he's invisible. Wait, they could get off of it. Imagine. They know he's lurking though, right? Yeah, they're looking for him. They're spy checking around. They potentially wait, he could maybe cap this. Maybe he wants them to fight early and back cap it, Shib. It could happen. It could bait the team.
This could be wild.
Oh my god.
I imagine I need to be quiet for him. Like, you know what I mean? This is crazy.
No, he's going back. They're too well playing the objective. They lose line because of it too. Maybe committing too much on that in that instance.
That's unfortunate. It's one of those high-risk plays, right? I mean, it could have worked out and been insane, but since it didn't, it really only just wasted time, and you do lose one, and without having the strategist there to keep the team up, it is going to bite you a little bit here. Again, going to have to drop back. Fire Stray's going to have to retake and start once more, but this time there is only a minute on. British Tree is out there with Strange, so you will have to make sure that if Strange falls, you come back. But if Strange is one of the last ones to go down in the fight, it's going to be difficult to make the play happen on the portal. It's going to be a staggering touch, if that. We start once more on the off angle. Etsu found a ton of value in the last fight. Will it happen again? Whale available. No shield left. Forced all out. Good ult there by Chuckles. Whole team is in this locked zone, biding more time with 3 minutes on. Out we go, the invisible boundary. Etsu going to make sure they are not walking, trying to break and focus on the squids. Etsu ready with the whale at any moment. Will likely come in here soon. There is going to be no damage boost, so instead it's going to be looking to land directly in the center. This one goes back out. It's matched evenly. Neither of which of the whales are going to get a meal there. Instead, they're both just going to do a little bit of damage. Everybody pressing the Q button. Another invisible boundary gets popped, this time on the side of Fire Strays with the copy. I have Agamotto. Lion going to find one. Etsu 2, and that's 2 down for Dreamland. Fire Strays may take this to OT. Up in 2 numbers, make it 3 as Stinkers goes down. Can Chuckles hold on, just trying to jump away, but gets pulled right back. Well done there on the defensive side of Lion, on the offensive side of Lion, excuse me. And now we're going to see the switch over Mace to try to touch point, and does with Angie. But will this be enough? Z-Cube gets another pick on a Jibbery, and I believe Fire Stray should be able to take this if played properly. Everybody still holding on to the point. Mace very low, still getting healed up from Valentina. Valentina very low, still in this fight somehow. And down goes Valentina. And just like that, we have an OT situation.
Holy crap. I mean, both teams absolutely suck on defense, Shib, honestly, straight up. Like, that's just kind of what happened. Like, I don't know. Like, this Namor comp is crazy. You rely heavily on him, and then also your Hulk player, and then Vanguards. Like, we see so many ult rotations come through, and then maybe an elimination happens, unless the Namor finds, like, a trident headshot, like a few of them or whatever, right? So, like, Etsu put on an absolute masterclass on the attack. We'll have to see if both teams can do something, right, man? Like, it just feels like at the current moment, Fire Strays have figured out a nice little wrinkle. I love the fact of playing the Rocket Raccoon at times, kind of, you know, in a situation where Dreamland could never find the BRB, and, you know, off of just incredible Vanguard play, and then also Etsu on attack being crazy, right? I mean, 12 final hits is absurd. Sneakers as well putting up an insane performance, but this is a slog, man, back and forth.
Yeah, this is absolutely wild. I mean, I think at the end there, it seemed like Dreamland started finding their footing again, which is what, you know, the momentum definitely shifted back, but that is just like 0.3 moment there, right? It's just kind of heavily in your favor, so hopefully that would be the case. If you're on defense, you want to feel confident right there, and they looked like it, but, you know, did ultimately fall just too early, and, you know, it's just very difficult to get out of this one, or if the team is pressed that much, having a Hulk at your door is brutal. Just so much raw damage there with Hulk. Hulk actually with one of the most DPS in the game, if it right in front of your face with those punches, just in terms of speed of attack. So we will start once more, and we might see a portal play off the rip here from Fire Strays with British Tree. It doesn't look like it's happening just yet, but looks like they actually are going to set up and try this. Worked for them last time, why not try it again?
It may not be pretty, but this is peak Marvel Rivals right now, baby, with these 3 strategist compositions alongside of Namor. You know, it's like a dad bod. You know, it's like, I don't really want to see it. It's a little ugly, but it gets the job done, right?
Yeah, I was curious if they were going to try to do something. They didn't have the invis to pull through Portal, maybe, and then try to get the tackle with like an Emma play or like a Hulk jump tackle. I'm not sure, but that would have been pretty crazy to see. But Dreamland doesn't have anyone fall there, so good communication to reset. Still going to see the hold. Everybody all over the place. The comms have to be absolutely wild in this moment, I have no doubt at this point. Dreamland need to win this to stay in the series. If Fire Strays pulls this off, this is theirs, and they will be progressing, just crushing the hopes of the forward movement. But Dreamland sweeps virtually everyone on the defense now. 2 seconds on, and there will be no portal touch as OT is ticking down. That should be it, unless we see an insane dive in here from something, and they do get the touch, but not for long.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you had to shift up or something for the crystals, regenerative domain, but I mean, the MVP there for Fire Stray's defense, no living man. Shib, it was a squid, the squid that showed up twice in the KO feed. And then that squid was popping the heck off, man. If we watch that squid POV, Let me tell you, you probably get motion sickness because when you watch those kill cams on the squids, it goes, your camera flips upside down sometimes. It's a little crazy.
Yeah, and it looks like they have hacks. They just don't miss. You know what I mean? Yeah. Somebody ban the squids.
I know.
Please get the squids banned. As we look forward to the attack now of Dreamland with a little bit of a different comp, we're going to see the change up here. The side of Fire Strays, Registry going to get off that Strange and instead going to pull out the Magneto. And I think that's just to try to shut down Chime up there in the sky, just to make sure that that Meteor M, if, you know, the tricky part is trying to get Meteor M on the same pace as Ultron is very difficult because Ultron gets that out really quickly. Is going to see a little bit of a nerf in the new patch coming up. The 300, I believe, alt charge increase to try to tone that down a bit, and that may put him in a little more of a quote-unquote less meta or fair place. Curious to see what that looks like.
Interesting you'd say that, Shib. If I listen to TikTok comments, they would say Ultron was actually underpowered. So L plus ratio plus you're wrong, old man. Okay, back in my silver games, Ultron sucks. So you're wrong, buddy.
You know, it's a different world for everybody, right? Everybody's living in a different world. Who am I to tell them the answer as we start up again?
What? You know, I'm not Jeff Bezos. I'll say that much. Casting Marvel Rivals all day. You know, he lives a different world. I'll tell you what. If we looked at his net worth compared to mine,
I was wondering where you're taking that. You always just went back on the road there. I like where that landed.
Yeah, Lumberjacks, Detroit. You know how it goes.
I love it as we start once more again, folks. The attack is out, and this high side has been a mainstay all day. Having Mace walk main there with the Magneto, just to try to put some eyes in a different direction, while the rest of the team owns that height. Try to get one strategist back on main. Everybody else is going to float up there and play around, likely the drone from Chime, which is used and keeping the team up. Stinker's just dealing some raw damage, very low HP. Good drop out there on the defense from ZQ. We're going to elect to drop back to the team, get healthy, and start once more. Forced out a couple cooldowns, but it's all about building ults right now. They have the time, a minute 30 available. If they get these ults, play slow, they can retouch with Portal if need be and commit everything for the win, and that is what's necessary. Or will we have a tie? We've seen it before. No need to count it out. Etsu going to find Stinkers, ready straight out and Chime. That's 2 numbers up. Portal play maybe coming in, but they do have time to make that happen with a minute 13. Super Gomez onto Mace. We see a lot of the duelists electing to play Rocket because Rocket actually can do a pretty substantial amount of damage up close. And why not have that in the hands of somebody who's great with a duelist?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I like it because they'll never find the BRB, but also they found Chime in that Ultron's Rage. You heard the little voice line. And that's the most satisfying feeling whenever you find that pick off. Also, Etsu, I believe, using the little toggle to walk option that we have added to the game for mouse and keyboard enjoyers. On this defense, though, it's all going to come down to 2 huge whales, Shib, and maybe a Meteor M from Mace.
Yeah, Guanguan saying aura walking or aura farming was not on my bucket list, but I added it as soon as I saw it. As we start again, 30 seconds on the clock here. Pulled in a lot of cooldowns used on Mace early on. Bubbles go out. This time for the side of Chuckles, who's going to drive back towards the point. Mace goes up with Meteor M. This is very important if this lands. Crystals are out. Does not manage to find too much value. Everybody pressing Q across the board here. 5 for Fire Strays, as we still have Chuckles and Gibbery on the attack side of Dreamland. Does anyone go down yet? Not quite yet. Oh, unfortunately, not able to make that happen. ZQ very close to the pick, but it loses the major hold in that moment. ZQ keeping the pressure on. Stinkers, though, gonna find Lying. The attack now is up again. The dance floor out for Gibbery and Chuckles, who just waited a little bit. Xantho with a slightly better strategist ult, holding on just a little bit. Super Gomez gonna get that pick, and Stinker's gonna find Etsu. It's a trade fest. It's all about who can hold this point at the very end. Its numbers are traded back and forth, and Dreamland now slightly down a number. Valentina gonna teleport in, and we're gonna see a shake-up. Mace gonna find Super Gomez, though, and they're still on this point.
And they need healing, though, desperately from Xantho on the backside. I mean, ultra up for Chime as well. Mace falls low. He goes down. Portal's here. Here's Ultron's Rage, though, coming through the portal. And it's an absolute incredible engage because Bruce falls.
Oh my goodness, Chime through Portal. This may have turned this around. Everyone healthy again. Valentina gonna be on the Strange now. The Whale's ready, taking the high side. Gonna drop this in a moment as soon as that cooldown is launched. Looking at ZQ post jump. Out goes Ayavagamotto. Will they be able to combo? Out goes Crystals, keeping the team healthy. Icar's with a 2-piece. Chuckles onto Super, who reses back Lying. Mace onto ZQ, who comes back now as Wolverine. And I think Dreamland has done it at this point, folks. I believe they get one. But wow, British Tree takes out Shine. It's still happening here. Stinkers on Etsu, though. This is another one of those back and forth fights. It's anybody's game. Lying with the pick, but at this point, Dreamland should do what they do.
Oh. Oh my. Oh my goodness. What a series. What an incredible end. I mean, we had the portal come back through. It's like Ultron came from the future to come ruin the hopes and dreams of Fire Strays. Because just what, Chip? I mean, the hopes and dreams are still alive because I believe we are all tied up 1-1 because Fire Strays was the team to win map 1 and a well-deserved MVP for Stinkers, who just was the only person to find a KO, Chip. That was really it. He was the only one to find a KO in a 20-minute game. He found the KO when it mattered most. I'll tell you what.
Holy moly, man. I mean, these fights have been wild. The amount of trading back and forth in full commitment of ults across the full teams, and just consistently, you look over the kill feed and it's blue and red, back and forth, and it gets to a point where it's just all up to clutch moments. And I think that walkthrough there, like you mentioned, by Chime on that ultimate through portal, kept the entire Vanguard line full HP in a moment that they were one, you know what I mean? And then coming through and getting a pick, that is just so much value. And that is why Ultron does what Ultron does. Wow, what a play there, and what a win by Dreamland.
I think it's, as you called, I mean, maybe the chance for Fire Strays to win there was in, ultimate for Z-Cube, right? He was sort of right about to pick off, I believe it was either a Vanguard or the Ultron, but switches form out of the Hulk, or out of the ultimate, and can't find up that elimination. And then with that, I mean, then you're allowing Stinkers to come back online, and these neutrals, it's always scary, right? I mean, Etsu was phenomenal on attack, but kind of went silent whenever we switched sides, right? That was the biggest problem for Fire Strays. But we'll see as it moves forward, right? The ban phase could be different. I say that, but more than likely it's not going to be. It probably is going to be towards these strats again, because knowing both these teams, Chip, they kind of like to do the similar, same things that they've been doing throughout the series. And maybe, I mean, Fire Strays, the difficult part for them is that they're kind of not playing the Star-Lord stuff anymore, which is a little scary, I think, moving forward, because that sort of favors them in this matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's funny because on this last map, we saw Star-Lord with 62 elims, right? When we saw SJW there on Star-Lord. So you definitely can get value with Star-Lord here. I think the teams really loved the combination. Obviously, Hulk, Namor in a spot right now with that team up. That is wild as you look here at Stinkers. 42 KOs, 22 finals, right? 22 finals in this battle is wild. The next closest on the opposition being 13 and 10. So just goes to show you how much success that team up can have. But it's crazy because next patch, that is not going to be there. We go to game 3, folks, right after this short break.
Well, hello once again, Rivals. My name is Diatonic, and I've got your after-action report for the second week of the Marvel Rivals Ignite Asia Group Stage. Zero Tenacity were back in action to kick things off for week 2, taking on Down Payment in the opening match. Z10 looked clean on map 1, but Down Payment would claw their way to a reverse sweep, defeating Z10 2-1. Incipients were still on the hunt for their first group stage win as they took on U-Inks next, and they'd get themselves on the board with a big 2-0 win here. Rounding out this first day of week 2 was yet another marquee matchup, the fated rematch between Stage 1 champs Reject and the newly rebuilt Gen G. Though the players have changed, the story was yet again one of triumph for Reject as they take the series in a close 2-1 showdown. The second day of week 2 started off with a match between veteran team Assemble Fire, who are still in search of their first group stage win, against Incipients. But Incipients had picked up some steam here in week 2 as they won their second game of the week in a close 2-1 bout. Down Payment also continued their winning streak, taking their third win in a row over Rocket University in a big 2-0 sweep. Onside Gaming looked to keep their dominance alive in the next match as well, taking on U-Inks and walking away with a clean 2-0. And in the final day 2 matchup, Zero Tenacity went head-to-head with the Vietnamese squad OEG. It was a tough draw for OEG, and they'd fall victim to Z10 2-0. Day 3 kicked off with a showdown between frontrunner team Crazy Raccoon and Onside Gaming, with CR continuing their flawless group stage campaign with yet another 2-0 win. We had a heavy hitter matchup between Gen G and Zero Tenacity next, one that Gen G would walk away the victors from with a complete 2-0 shutout. XOXO01 and Incipients stepped onto the field next, and EXO would lock in their playoff position here with a big win over Incipients. We ended the day on a very interesting matchup between Reject and Rocket University, with Rocket actually managing to take a map off Reject. But the only 3-map series of the day would go Reject's way in the end. The final day of the Asia Group Stage began with 2 Legacy Ignite competitors, XOXO01 and Assemble Fire, a matchup that EXO would win handily 2-0. Reject were back up against Down Payment, and the Stage 1 champs would emerge victorious here, also 2-0. Crazy Raccoon had their last match against Ewinks and would complete a perfect run through the group stage with yet another 2-0 win. And finally, the group stage would close with Gen G taking on OEG, with Gen G picking up the last win of the week. And after 2 weeks of group stage action, the Asia playoff picture was locked in. From Group A, Crazy Raccoon, XOXO01, Onside Gaming, and Incipients advanced to the playoffs. And from Group B, Reject, Gen G, Down Payment, and Zero Tenacity all make it through. The competition in the Asia region is looking hotter than ever, with only the top 2 teams qualifying for the Grand Finals LAN tournament later this year. Well, that's all for now, Rivals. I hope you caught your breath because we're about to dive right back in. Get ready to ignite the battle.
Welcome back, everyone, and what a series we have on our hands as we go to Game 3. And also, big shout out to Diatonic there for the recap. Very well done. But man, Game 3, you know what? It's just been like you're saying, it's just been a slugfest out there, brother.
Yeah, I mean, the ban phase might have to change for it to be any different. Because we're going to go over to a convoy, right, as that third map, because Convergence was that last one, leaving only one game type left, Shib. And, well, to be honest, we know what both teams want to do. Maybe the fact that we're going to convoy means these triple comps opened up, triple goats or triple vanguard, triple strategist comps, right? That's sort of a thing. And honestly, I'd be curious to see how both of these teams are in that composition.
Yeah, I see what you're saying with the potential ban out there. I think another call out to make is the advantage to winning that domination is if it does go to Game 3, you do choose the map when it comes to that final mode. So that is going to be in the advantage of Fire Strays there. Another thing just to mention for everyone watching. So yeah, I mean, this is going to be another just insane battle. I personally think they're probably going to stick to this strategist ban out. I think it's just something they're comfortable with at this point. Doing it back to back like that, they may be locked, but potentially getting rid of that Hulk on either side and shutting that team up down may be the play. We'll find out shortly.
And that could be the play. Maybe some variation in that department, but right now we have the Mantis at least coming out first as a ban. Neither team wants to play against that. Sort of doing a typical thing, and this is what we talk about, maybe switching it up, maybe doing map-specific bans could be a specific idea.
Sure.
Right now for Fire Strays, the idea is to keep Adam Warlock in the composition based on the fact that it was banned out last time. But Ultron not being protected is interesting, I think, from a factor of maybe the Ultron should be better than the Adam Warlock on these sort of maps, right?
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think in general, these triple comps are very map specific, but I would argue that in this specific map, yeah, I was going to say, you want to protect the Jeff, right? I think Jeff is so good here. I think Adam also really good here on the triple hold. We've seen some success even with the Loki copy of Adam here on the triple hold and just double rezzing your team, which is another strange but unique success story that we've seen here in Ignite Stage 2. So, I mean, there's a lot of different stuff. Ooh, goodbye to the Star-Lord. That is
Well, Dreamland is banning specifically a comp that Fire Strays gave up on last map. So that's kind of weird to me. I don't know. I mean, it's like a map thing. Yeah, you have to, Jeff on this map is really good. But it is interesting because I feel like Fire Strays gave up on that Solar Jeff stuff on the previous map, and we're probably going to play it again.
Yeah, it's just that this map, I mean, there is some strong height takes, right? Especially in that first point, and even point two a little bit there. So maybe that enables Star-Lord a bit more to have some outs, right? Some safe zone out. And it's also a really good Ultron map, so no surprise to see Ultron getting banned out, so that we will not be seeing that from the side of Chime as Fire Strays gets rid of that. Goodbye to the Venom as well, who's incredibly strong right now, and the Hulk ban, like we had potentially called out.
The Ultron Protect this late is interesting. I don't know. This is tough because also honestly, with Dreamland and their ban phase, they also ban out a Namor Hulk on that side, or the Hulk specifically, which gets rid of Namor too. But honestly, I kind of favor Dreamland's ban phase a little bit more, right? I just we know Dreamland could play this front to back style very well, right? That's the biggest thing. We know Mace is good on Emma Frost. We know Chuckles could play that thing if he wants to, or even a Magneto. So to be honest, I don't know if I would say Fire Strays has an advantage in this ban phase, but anything's possible, right? Maybe with that Ultron Protect, that gives them a huge edge here. We'll find out in just a moment because it's map number 3, Shib. And if you don't win here, you're out of the dang tournament.
Yeah, I think that's another thing to mention. You got to imagine the heart rate right now from these teams. There is a lot on the line here, not only progressing in the tournament, but your chances of making it to Atlanta get crushed. And I cannot fathom the amount of stress that applies or that adds to these fights. So you got to lock in, you got to stay calm, and you got to make sure comms are clean and you're all on the same page, because triple here is very strong and it can buy you a ton of time on point one. So we may see an early hold from either side. It's definitely on the table.
Yeah, to be honest, I know a lot of people like will say triple Vanguard, triple Strategist is boring to watch, but I don't know. Maybe it's because I went through that era sort of in my own respective game that I kind of love it. Like, it's like there's so much high level gameplay to it because some teams absolutely suck at playing it. And I think it's awesome to point that out.
Well, you know, it's just the truth. It takes a lot of practice, and it was a strategy developed by a specific team, and we talked about team strengths, right? Like, teams started doing this once they saw it was successful, but it doesn't mean it always fits the way your team runs. As we see now, the early hold is still going to keep it around this corner. Super Gomez is going to be making the change here to Moon Knight. He's going to just have that little bit of a damage boost from Storm instead of running that Wolverine. British Tree falls from the side of Mace, so we are going to lose one on the attack of Fire Straight. Super Gomez is going to drop back out, go a ton of cooldowns. Going to utilize the Dome with Invisibility. Haven't had a ton of eyes on that, and that's just due to that team up there with Cloak. Going to keep them healthy, and you can see that from Blade, but we haven't seen any Blade play here so far at this level of play. But again, another one of those heroes that will be getting buffed in the next pack. We'll see what that looks like. Super Gomez, she's doing a ton of damage, getting close to that ult, and that's all you want to do is ult is available and ready. But that combination with the British Tree could be everything. Will they be able to make it happen? We'll find out shortly.
He's throwing the double right click, potentially with the damage boost. No, actually doesn't even need to. Stinker still falls even through that boundary, but guess what? Stinker's brought that way to the BRB, and they're caught by the Sonic Seduction incoming Super Gomez. And oh no, Lying's ult not there to save either of his duelists.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We did see British Tree also throw ult in that middle of that invis. Not sure if it collided and worked there. It might have worked as to how they got that pick, but either way, good job by the strategist of Dreamland to keep the team healthy through that combination. And here we go with an early Hurricane. It is going to be immediately locked down. Ton of damage out, but it likely will not be enough to knock out anyone. No, Mace going to find Z-Cube instead on the defense. Again, finding another pick. Super Gomez already roughly at 50%. Great out there by Chuckles. Everybody is clobbered, but still healthy and holding as British Tree 91%. Again, almost ready here with the Groot, who can get that all very quickly, and it works very well into this comp. Here it goes again. Will it be stuffed or will it find value? We'll find out shortly once more. And there it is, the combo.
Man, no follow-up.
Yeah, there's nothing.
He lost Lying and Super Gomez. This is the hard part for Fire Strays, is that Dreamland faced arguably one of the best teams at playing triple duelist, or sorry, even double duelist with the Storm, with that Moon Knight, with the Groot. They played against Rad. Like, Rad has you mentioned it, Bedtime Stories, BTS. He is like one of the literal only Moon Knight mains in the entire tournament, or at least ones that plays a ton of it. Yeah, and if he can't make it work versus Dreamland, which he did eventually, I mean, these guys are well practiced versus one of the best teams at that comp, basically.
Yeah, I've seen it firsthand that Moon Knight is obscene, and Moon Knight very much one of the answers here, as we have seen. Super Gomez is going to be switching off that Moon Knight as we have the discussion, finding a pick instantly onto Chuckles. Dang, there it goes. The Meteor M right onto the head of Xanthos. Super Gomez going to find the shotty to the face of Mace. Down goes Mace. Super Gomez getting a lot more value here on this Punisher than we saw prior, but is going to fall to the very aggressive ult from Gibbery here, and they still are sweeping with 60 seconds. I mentioned the hold, and I may have called it here early on, as the portal doesn't even need to be committed. It might have been from Chuckles, though, to come back on the point. It is, yeah.
Yeah, it is. You know, maybe if Super Gomez had the swimsuit skin and so did the invisible one on the other side, maybe he could have swam up the invisible boundary. But in this case, didn't have it. Does have that Punisher roll ready to go, though. And this is that wrinkle we see a lot of teams do, is play the Punisher. But will he get countered by an invisible boundary? He is. So they don't want to push into it. In fact, he's just going to play it slow.
Yeah, and they're going to follow up now, trying to press in off that Eternal Bond and get more value. Ooh, a ton of damage, but not enough to get the pick. Out goes the shotty, and this is where it gets dicey for the strategist. One shot can determine it all. The Moon Knight trying to make something happen for Z-Cube, and Chuckle's going to take out Super Gomez. Z-Cube, Mace onto Lying, and Gibbery onto Xantho. And we are at 9 seconds on here, folks, on the touch. And Dreamland is playing absolutely lights out right now on this defense. Can the touch happen? They will not be able to get there. They are held at point one.
Yeah, going back to that ban phase, the Namor was never really going to be a problem, so you probably don't need to ban out the Hulk. You know, you ban out the Venom, even though they probably weren't going to play Venom, right? They're playing triple Vanguard usually a lot of the times. I feel like, unfortunately, maybe they outthought themselves. And honestly, this is the one map where it would have been okay with the typical ban phase of the strategists, right? Maybe force them to play more uncomfortable strategists or something. But yeah, this is not the team that you want to play into the triple strategist, triple Vanguard comp because, yeah, I mean, they played against Rad, and Rad are pretty good at that combination, and they played well against it previously. Dreamland, really close to getting it done now, Ship. I mean, we're at the very end of Spider Island. 53 meters, 0.39 is not far at all, even against one of those strong triple comps. And it's not, doesn't bode well for the team moving forward.
Yeah, again, I mean, the stat line's just looking wild here for Dreamland. We might see the potential Angie play. We've seen that on this map before, actually, with Mace playing it, as well as Guru, both kind of matching up there with Angie. And 5 finals there for Mace, 6 coming in for Stinker. So clearly a very good hold. The question is, do they have the ability to press through this? But they have plenty of time, and they really, honestly, the portal could come through for a second fight as long as they hold very early on this spawn. It's got to be right at the drop of the cart here, and then the portal could come through around bridge to stop, so there is some potential for 2 fights guaranteed. But yeah, this is a tough position to be in.
And they set up for a 1-fight territory, right? They're gonna do flanks, they're gonna do all the crazy nonsense pulls from Mace, Captain America, really disrupt Fire Stray's backline, go for that rocket. But Chuckles, he actually goes down early to Xantho.
Yeah, I really like the positioning there by Gibbery. I think that's a genius to just play for Jeff all and just try to get all as fast as possible and just constantly cover the backline. And the team really hasn't been able to turn around and look in that direction. But the downside, great pull there. Tries to off map. Unfortunately, does not find any, but still going to buy some time. Ace with one on the lying, and they're going to follow up. Xantho goes down. Chuckles on a British tree. Etsu is going to be rezzing back lying. ZQ going to find Stinker. Super Gomez going to find Valentina. So the trades were roughly even through that fight, but was a good play. And again, going to try to make the off map happen. Does not able to do so, and still going to own this space as everyone's being drove back now. Lion goes down again, this time to Mace. Chuckles going to find Etsu. Chime onto Z-Cube, and it is looking dicey now, but the portal is ready. At this point, they're just waiting until the spawns are very close, and they're going to have to heavy commit. Here we go.
Yeah, can they body block them? Nope. 1.59 meters, but it's into here. Everybody of Sneakers now comes in with a blast of barrage. Everybody else going to fall shortly to Chime in the sky ship.
Oh, wow. This is an insane ult, and that is going to do it as they walk through early on. An incredibly difficult way to go out, being held there on point 1. But Dreamland playing lights out on a map that was not even selected by them. Well done, Dreamland. Their dreams are still alive of making it to Atlanta.
And then going back to the ban phase, MVP, by the way, for Stinkers on that map for very good reason. This guy has leveled up a lot, and yeah, just like going back to the ban phase, there's nothing really was favored in Fire Strays from the very beginning, right? That's the thing. Like, we see Chuckles, some of his heroes banned out, right? But just the Venom, right? He can still play the Cab if he wants to. He can still play, you know, the thing if they play triple comps. Just a tough ban phase, I think, for Fire Strays. Which goes back to the last map. You know, that last map was a slog ship, and that could have potentially, or at least when we played on Hall of Dahlia, that might have impacted them, right? Mentally, you gotta assume, okay, let's not play that comp anymore. Let's not play any more comp. Let's get it over with, quick and done. But it was never going to go their way, I think, coming into that with this ban phase.
Yeah, again, Super Gomez doing a good job getting that SVP, seemingly having the most finals, doing a really good job today. The entire team looked very strong here over these last few maps, but unfortunately just did not really show up here, struggled into that composition and finding a way out of the door. And that is a major necessity in this stage of the competition. You need to have a composition that can guarantee you get out the door, and we just didn't see it there. So again, well done on the defense from Dreamland, and then their attack was just very aggressive. We've seen a lot here on this map that you come out that right side door and you try to go very aggro off the rip. It typically takes the team by surprise when they're expected to just try to, their whole, you know, you're thinking their focus just to stand on point. So instead, if you hard commit out that right side door, you know, it can work, and we've seen that work a few times now.
Yeah, absolutely. If you find the strategist, you eventually win. Dreamland get it done in a close fashion. That was a very, very good series. You know, back and forth between both teams. Eventually, Dreamland did download the entire team of Fire Strays. So I'm curious how what happens when we talk to them, right? Because we talked about Dreamland Chip as one of those teams that we expected to do well, right? Yeah. It's sort of they were the best team out of the qualifiers. They were also the best team in tournaments throughout the scene in between Ignite, and really, we thought this team was going to be really good, but then they got sent down to the lower brackets 2-0'd by Rad, who look phenomenal right now. So, you know, everything's up in the air. At least the parity, I think, this stage is great. And Fire Strays, I think, proved that by taking a map off of this team who barely scraped by.
Yeah, I mean, Fire Strays looked great as well. I will say it again. I think it was really just map 3 that they really struggled. But yeah, I mean, very, very well played. As we check out the MVP now is going to be, I believe we saw Stinkers. Yes, same MVP as last go around with 22 last time, is going to find 9 finals here. And for a map that was held on point 1, that is a ton of finals with 20-2, man.
Yeah, this guy's good. Like, you know, I just remember Sneakers from Rank just being a TTVer. Like, I feel like, you know, he's just one of those guys that puts TTV in his name, trying to spread the good word of the Stinker crew. You know, I don't know what he calls his fan base. We'll have to ask him. Maybe they're called the Stink Bombs. I'm not sure. We'll have to talk to him. That could be offensive. Sorry, Sneakers. He's a really good player, though. And I think that's the big thing is he's leveled up. His Psylocke looked phenomenal. You know, that was the biggest reason why Dreamland, I think, took a next step, is this guy getting better. And, you know, he looks like a standout duelist player and is somebody to build the team around. So huge shout out to Stinkers. The rest of the team obviously puts in work too and are also top level players. But this guy leveling up has been a big reason as to why Dreamland are so good.
Yeah, I mean, it clearly showing up in MVP across multiple different heroes today. So again, big shouts there. The entire team looked good. The strategists across the board, we saw some insane plays, some perfect time ults, not a lot of mistakes, really no overcommitment either. Both teams doing a good job of not overcommitting in these fights. We saw a lot of commitment in fights by both teams, but no real issue to using an ult when it wasn't really necessary. So it goes to show you, as this tournament keeps progressing, teams are just going to get better and better. And that was an absolute slugfest. That was a battle, man. I loved watching games like that. But again, Fire Strays, you just got to shout you out. I know you guys are gone from the tournament. Really well played, and congrats to Dreamland as they progress forward, keeping the dream alive.
Yep, today's a tough day, Shib. I mean, it's a tough day sending people home. You know, or they're already home because we're online. But you know, it's like regardless, it's really. Yeah, metaphorically, of course. It's tough. It really is hard for Fire Strays because they put this team together, you know, and they looked like a good team. It's the same thing with earlier Intergalactic taking Envy to a very, very close 2-0 series. I mean, really, and that's going to be series 2 that we get to see now is both Envy versus Dreamland. So that'll be a banger matchup, and that's going to be a curious series for sure, too. But also, we have one more series to go today, Shib. Today's been a long day, and I believe we have an interview with one of the members of Dreamland in just a second. But let's take a look at the bracket. FlyQuest versus Rad is that upper bracket finals we're going to see later on. But like we said, it's those teams that are getting eliminated. Fire Strays and Intergalactic. At least they'll have a long weekend, fortunately for them. But unfortunately for them, that means they're out of Ignite. Not going to be qualifying for Atlanta. These top 4 teams, though, in FlyQuest, Rad, Dreamland, and Envy are your top 4 squads. Now they battle it out for seeding in the rest of this weekend, Shib.
Absolutely insane as they are heading, like you're saying, towards the seeding stages. That is a crucial win. And man, I mean, just a bunch of crazy matches. We really haven't seen like some hard stompings, and that just goes to show you, talk about the level of competition. But yeah, I mean, these teams are just locked in. People really want it. You can see the passion. Everybody's leaving everything on the field. And speaking of a guy who leaves everything on the field, we will have an interview here with Mace, which I do believe is ready. Mace, how you doing today, buddy?
Hi. How you doing, Shib?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, man.
Hey, so real quick off the rip, I have a ton of questions. You guys looked insane, especially there on map 3. We saw some differences in composition, and you guys seeming to run even 2-2-2 on some of these maps, including, I think we saw Hall of Dajalia 2-2-2. What's the decision there? When do you decide to make that switch?
So especially, it's kind of like the way everything, like our comps are always decided by ban lines and what the enemy bans, and a lot of our triple support options were banned from this team. And so there are some points in time where like our only triple support option is not the best for that situation. And Hall of Dajalia is a map that we've really loved and cherished a lot. And so we decided, hey, like I think Hulk Namor Phoenix is really good here, and that made them swap off their Jeff comp, swap up their comps a lot to where they had to like scramble and find like the right comp to play. And yeah, so that worked out really well in our favor.
Beautiful.
That sounds about right. And I think to maybe go to maybe the more narrative talk, Mace, about things, you know, I think you guys, Dreamland, you know, coming off that MRC Season 3 win, you know, coming off of better and better performances, were there a little bit more expectations for you guys, I think, coming into this? I know a lot of people were talking to you guys as like one of those, you know, dark horses potentially for Ignite Series. Do you feel like there's any pressure for you guys? I know it was a very, very hard game versus Rad, for example, a team that you guys have history with, but they look phenomenal too. So I don't know, can you talk maybe about the expectations of Dreamland and of maybe your expectations as well?
Yeah, I think our expectations were pretty high. Like everybody kind of ranked us pretty high, like at least like top 3, somewhere to top 6, like in like that range. And so our expectations were definitely really high. This patch was a little rough for us. So going into this patch, you know, a lot of things got changed up. Last patch we were obviously very, very, very strong and very good and very dominant in pretty much everything. But this patch, you know, we had to really put grind to the gears, especially not having a coach, not having, you know, a lot of the resources that these big orgs do, since we're like kind of a freelance team. We had to put in the extra time, the extra effort, vodding every day, going through everything, seeing our mistakes, and then going from there. So we definitely worked through a lot of those like trials and tribulations there.
Yeah, I mean, that's no joke. Just piggybacking off that, the fact that you guys are dealing with a ban system like this with no coach is wild. What does that look like for you guys? Is it just open comms, trying to figure it out, or?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it really is. Like, I can't, like, all 6 of us offer a lot of insight to the bands. It's mainly like me, Chime, and of course the GOAT, Valentina Eve. You know, we handle most of the bands, but other people also put in other insight too. Like, for instance, Jib had a lot of insight today that really helped us in our band line. And so it's like, it's really, when you don't have a coach, you don't have like that base structure, you have to build that together. And I think that's like the one thing that our team does very well.
Awesome.
And that sounds about right. Yeah, it can be very difficult without a coach. And well, on that third map, I mean, you guys, in my opinion, kind of dominated the ban phase. At least it felt that way. Yeah. And like you said, I mean, like it was you guys obviously making the decision. But do you feel like once you force them to ban out that Hulk, once you force them to ban out the Venom, you're like, oh, we got this in the bag, right? Because you already know they're getting away from that triple comp. And then, yeah, I mean, like, can you talk about that ban phase at the very end? Did it just feel like it was game over? Because versus Rad, I mean, you guys had one of the harder matchups against that triple and that storm composition with BTS on the Moon Knight.
Yeah, 100%. Like once we saw the Hulk and the Venom ban, we knew we had them beat. We knew that they decided to just ban out the things that they couldn't deal with, and at that point we had like so many other tricks up our sleeve. And I think like one of the reasons why we struggled so much on the first map was because their ban lines were so strong. Like, I really do love their ban lines, but once they started to panic and once they started to ban the things that they didn't know how to deal with from us, that's when we were like, oh, we got this in the bag. You know, especially Spider Islands being one of our best convoy maps too. Well, I mean, even once they picked that map, we were like, let's fucking go. That's one of our strongest maps. So, that was definitely like, that was a good, so.
Awesome. Well, you got a big matchup coming up here against NV shortly, not today, but very soon here. Any comments leaving off? It's been a pleasure talking to you. Anything you want to say before we let you go? Thanks for your time, buddy.
I mean, I just love my team. Like, genuinely, I love my team the most. I know sometimes I can be a hard ass. Sometimes other people on my team can be a hard ass. But the fact that we're all here and the fact that we're all pushing through and working together as a team, like, I genuinely love my team, man. Like, I honestly wouldn't want anybody else replaced on my team. So I love them, man. I'm going to get like a little teary-eyed, you know, but like, I love them, man. I do love them a lot.
No, a ton of excitement. Thank you so much for your time. You are the best. Thanks for some great answers too and some insight to your thought processes. I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon, buddy.
100%. All right, thank you, Shib.
See ya. All right, so you heard it. Just a very excited team, a team that is feeling good about their stack. And we talk about that synergy. You know, talking about bringing synergy into the game, a whole new suite of players coming in here with the new console in terms of bringing it into Rivals PS4 now. You're going to be able to be playing Rivals on the PS4. If you have folks that have not upgraded quite yet, get them over into your stack, show them the ropes. You've been...